Okay, we're going to talk about what happens in your brain after you have a baby. We'll talk about hormones separately because that feels like a whole other beast. It's very interconnected, but I just want to talk to you a bit about the brain. We're going to get a little bit nerdy about neurodevelopment, but don't worry, I quit science in year 10, so it's not going to be too technical. Baby brain gets a really bad rap in this culture, and I mean, there's a reason for it. Like, yes, we get forgetful, we lose our keys, we find it hard to find words. This is really real. I don't think you get it until you've had a baby, how it suddenly becomes very difficult to even have a 10-minute conversation in that immediate postpartum phase. It's draining. So of course, baby brain gets a bad rap because suddenly we're forgetful, we're emotional, all of these things. But that's because people don't really understand what's going on with baby brain and actually why it's a superpower for mothers. So baby brain, when we reframe it as something positive, is actually quite amazing. We know a lot about what goes on in a mother's brain from research that was done on rats. Rats actually have a really similar oxytocin circuit to us. I'll be banging on about oxytocin down the track, but it's really interesting to note that these studies basically showed that rats who had not had babies versus rats who had had babies, the rats who had babies had really enriched brains. So just simply the act of being pregnant and having the baby has shown that your brains become like turbocharged. But what happens is they get rewired. So it's kind of like the analogy my teacher, my postpartum doula teacher said, which has always stuck with me. It's like, imagine you've got a filing cabinet. It's full of stuff. It's full of how to do your job. It's full of remembering your keys. It's full of, the 3 languages that you know. It's full of all of those things. Baby comes along and we are tipping out the filing cabinet. Everything is getting chucked out, everything. And what's getting put back in a different order are new files and existing files, but maybe those files are a little bit further down. So we've got new files coming in to the filing cabinet. We've got files about compassion. We've got files about making connections, and we've got files about caregiving. So your brain's actually being rewired to be a more caring, compassionate version of yourself. And you'll hear about mothers saying, I just started crying at TV ads. Oh my God, I got so emotional. You might even notice that you suddenly feel more connected to the mothers of the world. I know even now, like I saw a possum with the baby on its back on our balcony the other day, and I was like, you're doing such a good job. I remember as well when I was in early postpartum with my first child, seeing other mothers and going, wow, you did that. Wow. And also thinking about it in a really positive way. Like, I'm not the only person sitting up here at night. There are millions of other women up with their babies right now, feeding them. So you might find that you become more forgetful. That is definitely real. The number of times that I've left my keys in the front door after having a baby, I don't know if I can really blame this on having a baby, but just this morning, I left my phone sitting on top of the car and drove off with it. Those sorts of things become just a part of life. And that's because your brain's working really hard to rewire itself. It's an incredibly rich time for brain plasticity. So we hear about, small children have a lot of brain plasticity, and that's why it's great to teach them, languages when they're small. But the same thing happens when you become a mother. I'm not saying go out and, learn Italian. I did have this whole thing of maybe I'll learn a language when I'm postpartum. No, you will be busy, but you might find that some things are much harder, but you are becoming this new version of yourself. And that's something that feeds into the concept of matrescence, which is that becoming process, the messy middle of maiden to mother. We're going to talk about that down the track. So while you might be forgetting your keys, you're getting a hell of a lot better at making decisions, making complex emotional judgments, Your compassion is building, your empathy is building, and you become better at bringing people together. You become better at forming friendships and supports, and that is one of the main superpowers of being a mother. You just find that your whole world changes, and I think we really have to remember that this can be a very positive thing. So yes, you might be forgetful, but there's a hell of a lot of other things going on. So that's what's going on for you mentally. We're going to talk about hormones next, which is really a big part of the brain process too.